I had the pleasure of being joined today by Matt Porter. Now, Matt is the head of pre-sales for Australia and New Zealand, or ANZ, at Okta. Matt, great to see you. Thanks for making time to catch up with me.
No, awesome to be here, Des. Great to have a chat today.
So, for our audience, just to set the scene so you know what to expect, we're going to have a great conversation with Matt today around his role as head of pre-sales for Australia and New Zealand at Okta. We're going to talk about the company in general at a 30,000 foot point of view, because I'm sure you know the brand, you have an idea of what they do, but we'll give you a quick update on kind of what the latest is, particularly with some of the new emerging challenges that you're all facing out there with data protection, identity management, and certainly the impact of AI. We're going to talk about the sponsorship of both the Melbourne and Sydney ExecOps events that Okta have taken up again. And then we'll be looking at some of the ideas around how you can get the most out of the event itself, then a bit of information about how to stay in touch with what's happening with Okta, the brand, and certainly what Matt's doing. Matt, I wonder if you could maybe just kick us off with like a 30,000 foot overview of you and your role as head of pre-sales for ANZ and kind of what that role and remit entails.
Yeah, love to. Firstly, thanks for having me today, Des. Great opportunity to have a chat and get involved with the BeerOps crew. So thank you. My role is I'm lucky enough to lead a team of what we call very talented solution engineers here at Okta. So a lot of people, I'll explain a little bit around pre-sales because a lot of people don't actually know what the pre-sales role is. Even if you're in the tech industry, a lot of people fall into it. It's not something that people get out of bed or get out of university and go, I'm going to be in pre-sales. This is going to be amazing. So
Exactly.
yeah, I lead a team of pre-sales solution engineers, and really it's our responsibility to help support the sales team throughout a sales process. So selling Okta and Auth0, and lead end to end, from that very initial business discovery and discussion with customers right through to effectively what we get is what we're calling is the tech win. So us being the preferred technical solution that the customer wants to buy. It's a really unique role because it's really hands-on as far as the technology and what you can do with it and getting into the tech. So for the techies out there on the call that love going deep, that love developing, that love getting hands-on with the tool set, it's a great sort of role for that. And then on the flip side, it's very customer focused as well. So you spend a lot of time presenting to customers, helping solve business problems and challenges. The thing I love about it, I've been in the pre-sales space for 15, 20 years. The thing I love about it is you're solving problems all the time. You're talking to different customers all the time, day in, day out, and solving different problems, right? Which is the part of it that I love.
Yeah.
My my own role is very much around leading that team, helping shape the strategy around Okta and pre-sales in Australia and New Zealand, and working alongside our ANZ MD.
And my, I've not held a pre-sales role myself, but I've certainly worked with a number of professionals like yourself over the years, at the risk of aging myself. And one of the things I loved was that in pre-sales space, you not only get to work with customers and help them with their business challenges, but you also get to work with the internal teams to ensure that they are fully aligned with and across and aware of what conversations you're having with clients are. But you also get to do exciting things, which we're going to talk about a little bit later, like events and so forth. I mean, you probably do a great deal of your own events, but in industry events and so forth. Having events come back in real person must be exciting as well, and you're no longer just two-dimensional things, you're seeing three-dimensional human beings.
Yeah, it is. I mean, even being able to be back in front of customers in the boardroom, is something that I think it's taken away from you. You don't appreciate how much you actually miss it. So being able to do that, and I still don't think that's bounced back. I still don't think we're at 100% back there. From the pre-COVID days, it's still, the
Yeah.
whole working from home culture is still there, and getting everybody in a boardroom, not so much on our end, but even on the customer end, is still a challenge. But certainly, that's the favorite part of the role is being there presenting to a customer. And I think the other part of the role is you're very much that, I don't like the term all the time, it gets bandied around a bit, but that trusted advisor, it's very
Right.
much the role of the solution engineer as well, because ultimately you're the front face of the product. You're there, yes, you're in sales, but you're the one telling, the customer prospect what the actual solution can potentially do for them and solve for them.
I imagine a big part of that as well, if we can just pivot sideways for a little moment, just on that, is that when you talk about that trusted advisor element, for a lot of your customers, I mean, they are not experts in identity management. They're not experts in data protection. They're not experts in cybersecurity and security in particular. So in many ways, that trusted advisor element is something that they look to from the point of view that they want to stay focused on their core business, if they're transport, logistics, education, aviation, banking, finance, insurance, whatever. That's their core business, and what you guys do is not. And so that trusted advisor element is a perfect fit, a match made in heaven for them and you to be able to actually work side by side. Is that a sort of a fair way to describe a lot of the relationship where you allow your customers to stay focused on their core business and what it is they do, and bank, if you like, on your ability to help them in all of those challenges they have in areas that are not their core strengths?
Yeah, and that's probably a really good segue into a little bit more about Opera and Auth0. And at our heart, what we do, we're an independent identity company. Our tagline is really to help everybody, you free everybody to use technology freely, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
what does that actually mean on the ground? All of us, on the call are employees generally. All of us are customers, and probably without even knowing it. If you think about the number of either work apps that you've used, today, or the number of customer or consumer apps you've used, this morning or today on your mobile phone, right? You've probably actually used Okta or Auth0 to actually log in and authenticate to one of those. Now, to your point, you could go and build that. There's a lot of smart people out there that can go and build authorization and authentication if they want. But to your point, most organizations are not identity companies. We are. That's what all we do. We spend 100% of our time focusing on it, doing R&D in it, and making our solution better for our customers. And to your point, if you're in banking, if you're in logistics, if you're in finance, whatever your industry may be, we actually deal with a lot of SaaS-based companies as well, right? They've got teams of developers. They could go and spend all of their time building this stuff out, or they can leave it to the hands, of us as experts, and they can actually go and do things that are a better use of their time and innovate on their own products versus having to, keep the lights on from an identity and security perspective, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And unfortunately, we have of late seen, and we won't name their brands because that's not fair, but we've seen airlines, we've seen telcos, we've seen banks, we've seen transport companies, we've even seen government agencies at state and federal
Yeah.
level of late, where they may or may not have had their own teams try to implement different levels of identity management, cybersecurity, and then something as simple as a phone call and social engineering has managed to get a password without identity management control, and they've gotten full access to a back end. And next thing we see, it's now being leaked on dark websites in completion. And I'm in that data set for one of those. And my first question to them would be, why didn't you go to someone like Okta and implement Auth0 to Auth0 to get control of this so no one can do that? And where's the two-factor authentication? When I think about Okta and Auth0, um, I wonder if you could sort of help for our audience in particular, sort of look at kind of those two elements. Because when I think about Okta, I sort of think more of identity management in the workforce and enterprise space. And when I think about Auth0, I think of more of sort of a developer DevOps space. How do you describe each of those elements if we sort of look at, Okta Inc. versus sort of Auth0?
Yeah, it's a good question, and very much the company. For a bit of background, Auth0 was a company we acquired several years ago now, and it's really what we call customer-facing identity management. So,
Right.
as I said earlier, you're logging into apps day in, day out. Chances are under the covers you're actually using, and we use a lot of Australia's best-known brands. We won't talk through them today, but a lot of the best-known brands in retail, especially SaaS, logistics, etc., use Auth0 as their identity management from a customer perspective. And then on the Okta side, it's very much the workforce side. So as I said earlier, we're all employees, we log into apps. And in fact, that's really why, Todd McKinnon, our CEO, started the company, I think 17 or 18 years ago now. He was
Yep.
working for Salesforce at the time, and he saw this explosion of cloud-based applications. And all of a sudden it went from having to secure apps within the four walls of the office, and you could easily put them behind a firewall and everybody was safe, to this explosion of cloud-based applications. And he saw this opportunity then of going, how are organizations going to secure these? How are they going to allow seamless, login experiences, but also importantly secure them when they're outside the four walls of the office now? And I think we saw, an explosion of that as well, even during COVID, right? Everybody, again, even if you had apps within the four walls of the office, everybody went home all of a
Yep.
sudden immediately, and organizations needed to secure that. So that's very much the workforce side of things. But back to the Auth0 side of things as well, I think it's quite pertinent to some of the audience that will be listening to this today. If you're from more of a developer background, for example, it's a very developer friendly led tool, basically allowing a bunch of SDKs to get up and running in your applications really, really quickly versus having to go and build that out from the ground up, as we mentioned earlier.
Yeah, the BeerOps and BeerOps as the largest tech networking conference that you have sponsored, we'll get into the moment. It has
Yeah.
an enormous community of, as you said, it's developers, it's software engineers, it's software architects, it's people working in the DevOps space with automation, it's infrastructure people who are managing stuff that's maybe in a hyperscaler space, whether it's in a Docker container, whether it's running on a Kubernetes or it's VMs and so forth and micro VMs, but also the DevSecOps space now I'm seeing where it's sort of like developers who are having to be across all the security elements, and particularly identity management, but also have to have a finger in the operational space of, orchestration. And it's getting a bit blurry, but the DevSecOps space, Seems like your footprint covers all of that for them, and if they can integrate that across the entire stack, it simplifies life dramatically from a developer and integration and design point of view, from a design pattern point of view, but it also increases security because now they've got one clean solution rather than potentially lots of gaps between edge point solutions. And congratulations on your sponsorship of the whole BeerOps ExecOps space. So for our audience who will know this, and by the way, for our audience who've tuned in, wherever you see this, whether it's on our YouTube channel, whether it's on social media posts, we will have links and details to the BeerOps.io website where we'd love you to go and have a look at events. And if you haven't already registered, please do register early for both Melbourne and Sydney, which are on October the 20th, I believe, and then Melbourne, and October 28th for Sydney. Even if you register and you get a note saying that you're on the wait list, register for just purely the ecosystem, the community become part of, and the mailing list. Partners like Okta will share information, whether it's ebooks or updates or whatever. All that comes through the community, the mailing list, the newsletters. And if for some reason you register in Melbourne or Sydney and you end up on the wait list, if someone bumps off, you're first in the queue, great, you're in the event. Love to see you. So register early, and you will have details also, not just the event, but lots of links to Okta's website, to the social platform accounts like Twitter and LinkedIn, and certainly Matt's professional profile on LinkedIn. So make sure you, wherever you see this, look for the links, click on them, check them out, spend a bit of time there. But Matt, congratulations on your sponsorship of the, I believe it's the ExecOps event. Correct me if I'm wrong there.
It is indeed.
I think you've sponsored both Melbourne and Sydney, if that's correct. Really great to see you supporting that whole community in the events. When I think about, it's described as Australia's largest tech networking conference. And it's kind of, there's a bit of a blurry line of what does it actually mean, but and to me, it's like a great opportunity to come around and hang out with peers and birds of a feather, but also to be part of that whole inclusivity pillar. And I don't just mean the DI piece. Like when we think about diversity, equality, inclusion, we often think about one particular element. For me, and I'd love to get your thoughts on this, a lot of us around that inclusion for different age brackets, age groups, roles, responsibilities, job titles, industries, and as you said, like that great 3D experience of seeing people in person again after the lockdowns. What does an event like the ExecOps opportunity bring to the table for someone like both Okta Inc. and Auth0?
Yeah, thank you. We're excited to be involved. I think one of the things for us is just the community and the extended network. I think to your point around diversity, around different age groups, around different backgrounds of people and where they've come from, what they do. I think within our industry, we feel a real obligation to be seen as leaders, not only within the identity space, but also the security space. So, sharing the message with that network, but also hearing from them around what they're experiencing, right?
Right.
We hear a lot of organizations, especially at the executive level, struggling with, agentic AI. We're moving into that era. I shouldn't have been so. We're moving into that era. It's here. So if you're not planning for that and having a strategy around that, I was at a roundtable, a few weeks ago, a lot more smaller and intimate than ExecOps, but I think it was just a great chance. And it's amazing when you bring great minds together, and especially executives, whether it's executives or it's at BeerOps and a small practitioner level, when you bring great minds together to brainstorm on the issues and challenges facing our industry, how quickly, ideas accelerate versus, I think, we often do it more
Yeah.
organically over Zoom calls, whatever it may be, but getting people into a room together just to hear from each other is just so valuable for that. So that's probably the part that, myself, but also us as an organization, most excited about.
Yeah, I love that idea. I mean, I think, my personal experience is that you can do great things in isolation if you're working from home or even working in a small team somewhere in the
Yep.
office. But when you get that great community together, ideas just seem to flow. And I find that the ones that I've been to, and I'm sure you've had a similar experience, is that once I start a conversation and two or three other people around hear it and join in, we kind of build on each other and share knowledge, experience. And once you put it all into the pot, it's kind of like, for me, it's like baking a cake. You can only, if you've got milk and eggs and flour, whatever, independently, then you can't make a cake. Everyone gets in the room, puts it all in one bowl and mix it up in the oven. We can make a cake and share a slice of it. And I see the events very much like that, where you bring all these amazing people with different backgrounds, different experience, different age groups, and all the way up to CEO level at the ExecOps room. Then you get that sort of, not once in a lifetime, but very infrequent annual opportunity to be in that room for those conversations that would normally not be something you have access to or would actually percolate into those great things. On the other side of the coin, Matt, I wonder if you could sort of share your experiences. You've hosted, moderated some of these things, you've keynoted, you've certainly run them as an organization, whether it's Auth0 or Okta, and you've certainly been part of the industry events for many, many years. What's the best way for people to get the most out of these types of events in your experience? Whether it's sort of the preparation and homework leading up to it prior to the day or on the day itself at the events?
Yeah, great question. I do go to a lot of these events. It's interesting how often, as you said, people maybe not doing their research or coming with a little bit of preparation. First thing I'd say is understand a little bit about the organizations that are going to be there and the individuals that you might want to meet up with. I think that's important. I do unfortunately still see it where you go to a lot of industry events and people will come up and they'll look at your logo and say, what do you do at a high level, which is okay, right? Some people genuinely don't understand, but I think if you can come in a little bit more prepared with at least that 101 understanding, I'll use our company as an example. I at least understand at a high level what Okta does from an identity perspective and where they're at as a company, and can come prepared with questions that actually understand our point of view, how we can potentially help your organization, or just have a general discussion, right? We can help with challenges.
Yeah, great tips. And something that someone shared with me the other day that I'll sort of repeat here for our audience, I'm sure you'll agree with, is that there was an idea and a recommendation that, as you said, do the homework prior, make sure you know the brands, what they do, even if you're just passing by to say hello and potentially want to grab some merch. Um, but also get to know the individuals and potentially reach out prior, maybe send an email or an email saying, hey, Matt, I want to come along and have a conversation about what you guys are doing with Auth0 as a DevOps person, or maybe I want to come along and learn at ExecOps of what Okta can do for me around my workforce identity management. Any chance I can sort of book 15 minutes with you? And then, you're like, oh, yeah, sure, absolutely. I will be at this place at this time. I'd love to meet with you 15, 20 minutes. And you've almost got an appointment where that person's going to give you dedicated time. And I love that idea because it's sometimes you get in the room, it's really easy to get lost in the noise and then sometimes forget what you're going for. So yeah, as Matt said, do your homework, understand what the brands do, the companies themselves, certainly Okta and Auth0. There's plenty of information on their website and online to learn about that. Um, and then also understand the individual going to be there, and certainly people like Matt and the team, so that you know kind of what their role is, and particularly with Matt and his role as the head of pre-sales for ANZ, understand what that role means. Have some questions in mind that you can ask Matt that make sense rather than just asking about the weather in the day. And also, respectfully ask if they're happy to connect with you on LinkedIn, maybe to build your network. But I would also say maybe don't be a little bit cheeky and ask for a connection straight away. Just say, hey, can I follow you and join the conversation there? Because sometimes following someone is as good as connecting if you don't know each other very well. Because I get a lot of people who will reach out straight away and say, hey, I want to connect. I want to be a first level connection. It's like, I've never even met you. So sometimes that's a little bit cheeky. But yeah, I think some great tips and advice there. And on the night itself, be patient. It's a very big event. There are a lot of people, and if you're standing there and Matt's having a conversation with somebody already, just go and grab a beverage. Which I should note, by the way, that even though it's called BeerOps and ExecOps, there's plenty of non-alcoholic options if you like me and don't drink alcohol, and just be respectful of people's time. And so if you see Matt having a conversation, just hover and make eye contact, and then Matt will no doubt connect with you and invite you in and have a conversation, ask who you are. Good tips there, Matt. So, look, really great to learn a bit about your role there as the head of pre-sales for ANZ for Okta, and certainly get some insights into Okta, the organization, and Auth0. Love your tips around how to get the best out of the event. I wonder if you could wrap us up with some thoughts and advice around the best way to stay up to date with what Okta and Auth0 are doing as far as your news and announcements, learn a bit more information about the organization themselves as you advise people to do, not just for the event, but post-event. Maybe they've got a pain point or a business decision to make soon around identity management and so forth that you can help them with. Where can people go to get more information, and how do they sort of stay in touch and join that conversation?
Yeah, great question. Obviously, website is number one, but we've just had our massive yearly event called Octane, our customer-facing event. A huge number of announcements there, around Okta securing AI and how we're going about that, and securing non-human identity. So check out both the Okta and the Auth0 website is a good way to do it. There's a bunch of white papers there as well, and just general information around. We spend a lot of time on threat intelligence, etc., as well. So there's a lot of great information out there just on the industry in general and what's happening out there, right? And the attack vectors that people are facing,
Yeah.
etc. So there's a lot of just general information, even beyond Okta and Auth0's products that we can educate you with. So go and check that out. Obviously, happy to connect with anybody, as you said, at the event itself, and would love to, both from an Okta Auth0 perspective. If people also, I know a lot of people get curious about pre-sales as a career, because as I said, it's not the most obvious path within our industry. So I'm a massive advocate for pre-sales and solution engineering as a career. So if anybody wants to sync up and understand more about that and that path as well, I'd love to chat. But otherwise, yeah, as I said, check out our website. There's also our latest report, which I'd recommend downloading, having a look at. It's Customer Identity Trends Report. It's got Australian-based data. Again, more just industry data and the challenges people are facing versus anything too product specific. If you're a practitioner beyond that, there's a whole bunch of information on our websites, labs you can get hands-on very, very quickly with both Okta and Auth0 to actually get a look and feel for the product and what we actually do in more detail.
Fantastic. Yeah, I spent plenty. I mean, I've been across the brands for some time, over a decade or so at least. But I did make an effort of grabbing a hot coffee, hot chocolate the other day and sitting down for nearly 45 minutes. Just went through it, and I went through both your resources section, so sort of got across some of the latest webinars, read a bunch of the blogs, checked out your newsroom to see what new announcements you had, and had a look at that report you referred to. I also looked at a lot of the customer stories because that sort of gave me a sense of some of the things,
Yeah.
success stories you've had there. I did actually do the homework on the Identity 101 as well, because oddly enough, I was like, actually, yeah, that's a good point. I hadn't even really considered that. On the other side, I also really liked the fact that you had a community space around sort of questions forum, discussions forums, and so forth. So
Absolutely.
as you said, highly recommend people not only visit okta.com and bookmark it, but go and look at both the resources as well as the community spaces. And in between there's a bunch of really great success stories, success plans. You've got product training, product certification. And also, you've got a really great directory of partners. And for a lot of brands like Okta, sometimes the best route is to go through a partner and who has
Absolutely.
a particular vertical, right? So maybe someone in
Yeah.
finance, someone in transport, whatever. Those are really interesting to look at as well and get an idea of, okay, are there people like me that in finance that I can work with as a partner? So some great homework. Um, so much to take in there, Matt. I could probably spend 2 days talking to you, but really appreciate your time so far. It's been great to chat with you about your role there in pre-sales. I love the idea that you're offering to help people get into that. I think it's a great role that gets great coverage across the organization. You've got a foot in both, the best of both worlds. Highly recommend people take a really serious look at chatting with you about that. And it's great that you're offering to help, not so much mentor, but at least guide them in that space, which
Yeah.
is not always easy to get to. And again, congratulations on the sponsorship of the ExecOps events at Melbourne, Sydney, which are October the 20th and October the 28th. And wherever people see this, you will have links to everything we've just mentioned and more. Click on those links, bookmark Okta's website. Make sure you follow him on Twitter and LinkedIn as companies, and certainly follow Matt online and join that conversation prior to and afterwards. See what Matt's talking about, place some comments, put some questions there. He'll definitely be able to reach out. And at some point, I'm sure they will definitely be able to help you across your enterprise workforce management or your development and requirements for security, identity management, and a range of other things. Matt, thanks for your time. It's been really great. Looking forward to catching up with the events. But in the meantime, safe travels, and we'll look forward to having you on the show again soon.
Yeah. Thanks, Des. Excited to be there and see you at the events, everyone.
Indeed. Thanks again.